Welcome back to DeezyVision. Now, as most of you have seen from my last video, I recently took a trip to Florida, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my experience on that trip, because this was my first time traveling since the pandemic, and it's also my first time traveling for 2021. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you a rundown of my experience traveling for the first time, since the pandemic started, and also traveling for the first time for this year. Now, before I begin, I got to apologize that there were no leisure or fun videos uploaded during my time in Florida, and that's because I actually traveled on family business. But I promise you that the next few trips that I do for this year, you're going to be getting all the leisure and all the fun videos that I know some of you might have thought you would have gotten on this trip. All right, so let's get into it. Now, at the start of my travels going through the Linden Pinland International Airport, I kind of didn't expect to see any big or large crowds in the airport because for one, I know that a lot of people aren't traveling during this time, and also January is basically considered slow season in the airline industry, and I'm a former airline industry employee, so I kind of understand that I wasn't going to really see any big crowds in the airport, and so that actually wasn't a surprise to me to walk into a practically empty airport during the middle of the day. That was no surprise to me. Of course, all airline employees were wearing masks. All the employees that work at different places at the airport, they were wearing their masks. All passengers were required to enter the airport with masks on also, or anyone that's entering the airport for that matter. We were required to have an arm mask. Travel on American Airlines, getting there, of course, they had everything set up to where you can physical distance yourself. They also had an employee working the queue line, which is something else that I expected to see, so that they can make sure that you were physically distanced. They can make sure that you're checking in at the kiosk properly. And, of course, they also had employees working at the ticket counters, just in case something went wrong at the check-in kiosk, or, maybe you're a first-class passenger and you're deciding that you're not going to use the kiosk. You want to work directly with the agent at the ticket counter. One other thing I noticed was there was plexiglass up, and so they're using plexiglass as another safety precaution, as we work to fight against spreading this virus. So that's another thing that I noticed. Now, going through security and U.S. Customs was also very empty. I remember there being just one machine that was being used for airport security. I remember there being about maybe 2-3 the most U.S. Customs agents there clearing people through U.S. Customs. Getting upstairs, of course, it was empty again. Not much people were really traveling that day. I don't know if there are days where the airport has a crowd of people. I don't know. But I'm suspecting that because we're still in the middle of a pandemic, that people aren't really traveling that much. Now, as I said, we traveled on American Airlines, and one thing that I took note of is as they were making the boarding announcement, they were talking about the importance of actually having a mask, wearing a mask, and keeping it on at all times. I noticed that there were certain masks that they were not going to allow you to travel with. I also noticed that during the announcement, I heard them say that if you don't have a mask, to come and see them at the counter. So I'm assuming that they probably have the disposable medical masks that they would give to passengers who don't have a mask, so that they can have a mask to wear on the flight. And at this point, I don't understand how no one is traveling around with a mask, because it's a priority basically everywhere. But that's something that I noticed that they did. Also, I noticed that in the announcement they said that if you refuse to wear that mask, you will not be flying on American Airlines again. So those were some of the things that I noticed early on, that they were making the boarding announcement. Also, on flight, they were not doing any food or beverage service. And so I know that is something that, most passengers look forward to. As you know that, sometimes flying, you'll get hungry and you'll need a snack or a drink or something like that. But they didn't do any food or beverage service. In fact, I didn't even really bother the stewardess to ask, if you really, really needed water, if you could get it, if you really, really needed a snack, that you can get it. I really didn't bother to ask, but I know that is something that they'll make that announcement as you're boarding the flight, and they'll also make the announcement again as you're on the flight. And so that's something that I took note of, and I know that, most passengers kind of look forward to that. You're paying your money to fly, and so, as you're taking your flight, people get used to, the process of receiving snacks and drinks while on a flight. And that's something that I noticed that they cut out, I guess, for health and safety measures. Also, I was expecting there to be more spacing on the aircraft with passengers, but I noticed that, they didn't space. They didn't, I'll give you an example. In the row that I was sitting in, there were people sitting in the row right in front of me, and I assumed that they would actually block off rows and have one row of passengers skip a row, then another row of passengers, so on and so forth. But that's something that they didn't do, and I took note of that too. Now, it may be that they were doing it and they stopped doing it. It may be that they did it for weight and balance purposes. I don't know, but that's also something that I took note of as we were traveling, heading over to Florida and also coming back. That's something that I noticed coming back too. So I don't know the exact reason for doing it, but I kind of expected them to literally block off rows where people were sitting. So I expected them to have some passengers in one row, skip a row, then passengers in the next row, and that didn't happen. And I understand that everybody is wearing masks, but I know that most businesses, most establishments that have people on the inside, that they would block rows and stuff like that. I know that I think Disney is doing that when you go on their rides in their parks. They blocking off rows, putting up plexiglass and all of that. So that's something that I expected to happen on the aircraft. In fact, that was something that you kind of warned about early on when the airlines were resuming flights during the pandemic. So I expected to see that, but I didn't. Now, during our time and stay in Miami, Florida, we tried this new place called Town Place Suites. It's a Marriott hotel, and it was our first time trying it. I can't say that they do a good job as far as running business during a pandemic. I noticed that walking into the lobby, that as soon as you get in, they have a sanitizing station. You can immediately sanitize your hands. They have plexiglass at the check-in counter. To use their gym, you have to get permission from the front desk. To use the pool, you have to get permission from the front desk, because they are trying to have it where there are not people crowding up in those small spaces. And so those are a few things that I noticed early on. They do serve breakfast in the morning, but they don't serve hot items. And so everything that you get from there is basically cold, even the eggs, which was totally disgusting for me. I didn't like that. Also, you cannot go in and serve yourself. They have someone that is stationed there that actually serves you what you want. So you let the person know what you want from the breakfast menu, and they'll go ahead and they'll give that to you. And I understand that is something that is happening everywhere right now. That is a self-serve place, buffets and all of that. I understand that is something that it's a regular occurrence, a regular practice. And so, I can kind of understand why they do it that way. And so, that's what it was for that. Now, room service, you don't get that every day. If you need towels, sheets, to change sheets or anything, you leave them outside. They'll collect them. You go down to the front desk and let them know that, hey, I need new towels, I need new sheets for the beds, and that's how it operates. And every few days, you can get housekeeping to come in and basically deal with the room for you. The room, it is a suite, and so it is a suite hotel, the suites. So you have a kitchen in there where you can cook. You have a fridge, stove, dishwasher, microwave, all the works. So you can actually take food in there and actually cook it. And like I said, every few days, you have housekeeping come in and they'll do some cleaning for you. But overall, we had a very good stay in Town Place Suites. I give it a place of 4 out of 5. It was very comfortable. They keep the place clean. Front desk staff is very friendly. They tend to your needs when you asked. The only thing that I had a small issue with is the length of time that it took for them to get us some new sheets. But that would be my only issue right there. But I give Town Place Suites 4 out of 5 stars. Another thing that I took a big notice of was places that you had to go to do shopping. Now, of course, for the length of the time that we were there, because of the length of time, you would have to go to places like Walmart and Publix quite frequently because, we were buying groceries to keep in the room with us so that we can cook and, have water and juice and stuff like that. And one thing I noticed is that places like Walmart especially always have a crowd of people. But you really didn't have to worry because they were making sure that, especially during checkout, that you were spaced properly so that you abide by the physical distancing rule of 6 feet. They also had a lot of self-checkout booths set up where you can go and do self-checkout instead of waiting on a line for a cashier to actually physically check you out. So that's one thing I appreciate about it. And they also would mark the aisles so that you would have a good flow of people moving through in and out of the aisles. They'll tell you, hey, use this direction to shop in, don't use this direction, go this way, go that way, just to try and, keep people from crowding through the aisles. And I can say for the frequent times that we had to go in Walmart and Publix, that going through those shopping aisles, there was not a crowd of people through the aisles at any time that I can remember. I remember there being smooth transitions through the aisles and stuff like that. And I also noticed that when they see that the store is getting full, they would put someone outside to form a line on the outside so as to keep the crowd on the inside at a minimum. And that was something that I started to get used to here in Nassau because we've been doing that for a while. So seeing that over there, it really didn't surprise me, and I could appreciate what they were doing to, keep their customers safe. Stopped at a shopping mall, and that's the first time that I went into a mall in the United States, and it was like almost completely empty, like ghost town. Like you could see the tumbleweed rolling past. It was empty, and that's something I'm not used to. But I can appreciate the fact that at least 98% of the stores in the mall, they had sanitizing stations right at the door, or there was someone there that would, administer hand sanitizer to you as you enter the store. I was also kind of surprised that so much people were still taking cash, because I know that a lot of places are trying to go cashless and would rather you use a card credit card, debit card to, make your purchase or transactions. And so that was something that I was kind of surprised at. And I like the fact that a lot of the restaurants there or food places are using mobile ordering. So, you can sit in your hotel room, order your meal. They'll tell you how long it'll take, and when you can come and pick it up. And, I could really appreciate that, because that's a step in a right direction as far as I'm concerned. Now it's time to talk about the part of traveling that nobody likes. Nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to talk about it. But in order to come back home to the Bahamas, we had to take a PCR test. And that's where they stick the cotton thing up your nose and they spin it around. And, well, for me, it wasn't that bad. It burned a little, but, had to do it. But to get back into the Bahamas, to travel back home, you had to take a PCR test, and the results had to be, of course, negative. And so we had to go and find a site or a place where we could have taken our PCR tests. We did some research and we found some places that did the PCR test for free, so we didn't have to pay for our PCR test because we found a free site. And wherever you're traveling to, anywhere in the world, you can Google sites, and I'm sure that you can find a place that you don't have to actually pay to do your PCR test. And so we did our PCR test. PCR test came up negative, no COVID. And from there, we had to go to travelbahamas.gov. I think that was the site, and you can correct me in the comment section if that wasn't the correct site. I can't remember if it was the .gov or .com or .org, but it was Travel Bahamas. And we had to go on that site and we had to apply for a travel health visa. And the travel health visa costs $40, so know that you're gonna have to pay for that. Just I don't think there's any way you're gonna get that for free. And we had to go through the process of filling out that form and paying the $40 and getting our travel health visa. On our return day, I didn't know what to expect, as far as crowds in the airport. Of course, Miami International Airport is much bigger than Linden Pinden International Airport. And so, yes, there were quite a few more people. But, as you start to move and go to your respective departure gates, you would notice that the crowd greatly thinned out, and so it wasn't a bunch of people around or anything like that. But at check-in, I kind of noticed that when they asked for the travel visa, the health travel visa that I talked about just now, after we presented it to them, what the ticket counter agent did was she put a special sticker on our boarding passes that showed that, yes, we had our health travel visa, it was negative, and we were good to fly. I don't know if you can see it right here, the same orange sticker. That's the one that she put on our boarding passes as we were getting ready after we checked in and were getting ready to head to our gate. She put that special sticker on there to show that we had our travel health visa, results were negative, and we were cleared to travel. Flight back home was pretty good. It was way better than the one going over. Same thing, they didn't do any spacing of passengers on the aircraft. They also didn't do any food or beverage service. So it was the same thing coming back as it was going over. When we landed back in Nassau, I noticed that they had the Bahamas Customs Hall was kind of partitioned off. And I'm guessing that they did that for easier flow of people. They had one line going one way for visitors, one line going one way for returning residents, of course. They had everything. They had the markers for the 6 foot physical distancing. And so, like I said, these are things that I can definitely appreciate because they are taking all safety measures to make sure that everybody is safe. I don't think there were much customs officers on duty because, of course, not much people are flying. So it was kind of quiet in the Bahamas Customs Hall. I noticed, look like they're doing some renovations in there. So we'll see what happens in the next couple weeks or months, because I think from what I saw, they were doing some renovations in there. So they're probably making it a bigger, better customs hall. But that was the experience coming back. And for me, it's something that millions of people aren't used to. Millions of people that travel all the time, especially people like me, because it's kind of more of a headache to travel because of everything that you have to do to go. And now that you have this new law coming where you have to even take the PCR test to go over to the United States, then have to take another one coming back. And if you can't find one free site, then that means you're spending a lot of money to travel. So in these days and times, it is very hectic to travel. It's a lot to do, and it can become annoying. It can become frustrating, but if you want to travel, this is what you have to do. Well, that does it for today's video. I hope me sharing my experience has helped someone that is planning to travel this year and into the future. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and give it a big like, because it really helps the channel. And don't forget to check out all of the links that I left in the description section below. I'll see you in the next video. But before then, I need y'all to do me a favor.